Hello YouTube. Today we are doing another manga review. Today we are reviewing One Piece, specifically the Sky Island Saga, the third saga in One Piece. And obviously the author here is Eiichiro Oda, and it's published by Viz, and the demographic is shonen, and the genres here are adventure and fantasy, and this is obviously a pirate fiction. And it does have an adaptation. I think you can watch it on Netflix. I don't actually know how far Netflix goes into the series, but it definitely should go past Sky Island, like the Sky Island Saga for sure. I'm not too sure though, so let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong. But yeah, basically the premise here is that the team is back on the road, the crew is back on the ocean. They're still on the Grand Line after the end of Alabasta, and they're going to continue their adventure, but as they kind of are going to, sail the high seas, they get sidetracked because their log post points up. Now, this is weird because the log post should not point up under any circumstances, right? It's supposed to be following the magnetic currents of the ocean from one island to the next. Turns out there's an island in the sky, or at least there's some legend about it. And, they embark on a quest to be able to go to that Sky Island. And that's basically what the saga here is about. So, yeah. Let's get into the plot line here. It's pretty good. There's two major arcs. I think there's only two arcs. Period. There's Yaja Island and Skypeia. Now, the Jaya Island is about 20-ish chapters, if I remember correctly. And it's mostly a world-building kind of arc. It doesn't really have too much action. There is some, obviously. But it's mostly focused on developing the world, developing the characters, and then introducing a bunch of new characters as well. And personally, I've actually thought that Jaya or Yaja was boring compared to everything else around it. Like initially, right? My first thought was, God, this is so boring. What's the point of this, right? But, as I was thinking about it a little bit more, and after listening to the One Piece version podcast, I kind of learned that it's not necessarily true. I mean, from a, action perspective, I guess it is kind of boring, especially right after the end of Alabasta, when we are, super hyped up. We see Luffy and the crew kind of have this big battle together. It's kind of boring to kind of go back into this very kind of minimal, very early One Piece feeling type of fight, where it's just Luffy and Zoro versus this, mediocre villain, right? Which is Bellamy, right? But, I don't know, I think I can appreciate it more looking back, and I think that this is one of those arcs that is going to get more meaningful and better on the second read-through, which I know is a little bit ridiculous since the story is over 1,000 chapters long. A read-through, a second read-through or a third read-through might be a little bit tough because holy crap, there's so much stuff, right? But I think that going back and rereading this arc after you get further in the story is probably going to make it much better. Because you're going to get to see a lot of the very classic Oda foreshadowing that is so prevalent across this series, right? So, I think it's okay. Generally, it was kind of boring because there wasn't any major action. The only action here was Bellamy being a dickhead to the Straw Hats, right? But afterwards, the Straw Hats beat the shit out of him like nothing. It was so easy. And it was just them trying to kind of be true to their morality and the way that they see things as right and wrong. I thought it was interesting, and I really like the development of the world itself in this chapter, but plot-wise, I didn't think it was very strong. Now, Skypeia was definitely very good. It was big. It was a separate kind of story from the rest of One Piece. It was kind of this completely separate world. It was basically like an isekai. That was very good, and it was very, very well done, but I'm not too sure that I really cared for the villain in this one. I think the characters were not as solid for me personally here in Skypeia. So I'll talk about that a little bit, what's it called, later, but I think that it's, I understood the plot line, and I thought that it was actually very well done. It was this essentially kind of save these people from oppression kind of thing that I thought was really good. It kind of fits very well with the Straw Hats, and there's kind of idea of liberty and celebration of life and stuff like that. But like the villain just didn't make sense to me. Like I didn't see his like meaningful reflection of something of Luffy, right? Which is something I talked about earlier, but we'll talk about it a little bit more now in the character section. So overall, the characters here in this arc were solid. I think that Robin was really good. I really enjoy her character because she's mysterious, but she has like a clear point to her. Although we don't really know what that is just yet. And I think that she's very good. The Straw Hats generally continue to be very funny, very cool, badass characters. I like most of them. I think that at this point, I do like all of them, but if I had to pick a favorite, it would definitely be Luffy or Nami. I like them the best. I think Zoro is a very cool character, but he's just that. He's just cool. He's like the overpowered character. And he doesn't really have too much going for him, like, beyond that. Like, his backstory is, like, sad or whatever, but it's not, like, that meaningful. Like, it doesn't inform his character beyond the fact that he wants to be the strongest, which in and of itself is kind of boring, right? I like Sanji a lot. I think his very kind of cool guy aesthetic is very nice, but he's such a simp that it's just so annoying. It's like, man, calm down. It's just a chick. Relax. You know, it's really stupid sometimes, but generally I think he's okay. I really like Chopper's comedy bits. I think he's very fun, but he's still too new to the crew that I don't really have too much of an opinion on him. The same thing with Robin, right? But Nami, I think is consistently enjoyable. She's kind of like the good center balance of this crew. She's like the normal person that is still brave enough to kind of deal with the craziness that goes around here. While Usopp, I just don't like the comedy that Usopp brings to the table. I think it's just not very fun because it's like very basic and very stupid. And that's not really the type of comedy I like. I like witty comedy, and he doesn't tend to be very much of that sort, right? But I think that as a character, I think he's good when he sheds his cowardliness and he kind of does what he needs to do. And I think that's very good, but it's going to be a slow evolution for his character. So Usopp right now is probably at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of favorite Straw Hats. Luffy and Nami are definitely at the top. I think Nami is more fun to me because she's a little bit more predictable, and so I enjoy when she gets unpredictable as opposed to Luffy, who's always unpredictable. But generally, I think all these Straw Hats are good. Now, the bad guys here, I think there's four bad guys, or three bad guys that are introduced, right? There's Blackbeard, or Marshall D. Teach, I think is his name, which is very interesting. I think he's very cool. I know a lot about him, like, later on. I think he becomes this big bad villain in the series, and I think that's very cool. So awesome that it's like a historical pirate. That's very nice. And then we have Bellamy, who is like the big guy, or the big guy in Jaya, but he was just like a dickhead. And I think he was good in this kind of what's it called, like, story way, like, because he's against dreams and everyone else is for dreams, right? So kind of him as a symbolic dreams are shitty kind of character was good because the people that believe in dreams, Luffy and Zoro and the Straw Hats and actually even Blackbeard, kind of beat the shit out of him really easily, showing that, you know, dreams trump people that think that dreams are not possible, right? So it's very good in that sense. It has a very thematic kind of sense to it, but like the character himself was pretty shit. And then Enel is the big bad of Skypeia, right? He's this god character. He has these lightning powers. He's a Logia fruit user, if I remember correctly. I can't remember what his fruit is actually called, though. But he can turn into lightning. And, well, I thought his powers were cool, and I thought his design was very nice. I think his design was really awesome because it had a lot of elements from a lot of different places. Like, he kind of reminds me of the way in which Quetzalcoatl, when he has a human form, is described. He has blonde hair, white skin. and he's like a guy that kind of is in the sky very often, which is very similar to Quetzalcoatl. But I think he's actually more similar to Asian gods and deities. Obviously, there's a whole kami thing. So, like, he's definitely a more Asian one, and he has the rings behind him. I think they're like Shinto rings, and he has some Buddhist kind of mythology tied to him as well. But I don't know, I think it's very interesting. But I didn't really find what he was supposed to represent, like, thematically. I think he's like the bad side of having dreams, right? I'm not too sure, though, because, like, Luffy and Blackbeard are essentially polar opposites, or two sides of the same coin. They're, like, made of the same stuff, but they interact opposite to each other, right? And Enel isn't really an opposite to Luffy in any major way. If anything, he's much, like, just disconnected from everything else. So I'm not too sure what he's supposed to represent. Like, Arlong is supposed to represent lacking of caring for your crew, where Luffy and the Straw Hats are supposed to represent caring for your crew, right? And then Crocodile is supposed to represent order, and Luffy is supposed to represent chaos, right? I don't necessarily understand what Enel is supposed to represent here compared to Luffy. The best thing I could come up with is that Enel represents faith, but like in yourself, or faith in your dream, but in a way that is harmful to everyone else. Whereas Luffy is supposed to be your dream in a way that is not harmful to anyone, and is only about you achieving your thing without, hurting people. And I don't necessarily think that's a very good kind of character theme. So I don't necessarily think that this is correct, because it doesn't really fit. It doesn't make sense, especially when Oda has so many clear and representative thematic elements for all of his other characters, right? All of his other villain characters. So I'm not really sure if this is a good analysis of Enel's character. So partially, I didn't like him because I couldn't figure him out. But partially, I also didn't like him because it wasn't very sensical. Like, okay, you have power and you get this, like, god complex. But, like, what's the point of killing everyone? Like, you essentially lose, right? Because you can't be a god if there's no one to worship you, right? So, like, his whole plan of killing everyone is counterproductive to his dream of being God. So I didn't really get it. I also don't like that he didn't ever lose. He just kind of dipped. He was like, bye, deuces. So I don't know. It's not the best. I didn't find him to be as enjoyable as a character. Which is kind of odd. I think that I'm kind of weird in this sense. I think a lot of people really like Enel. I just didn't. And I don't know why. I can't really say for sure what it is about him that I didn't like. Because even though there's other characters I didn't really care for, I think that they still had, like, a thematic element to them that I thought was really respectable. So Enel was just kind of not the best for me. But I don't know. Maybe I read him wrong. So let me know down in the comments. Now, Teach is very, very interesting. Like I said, he's the evil version of Luffy. He's the dark side to, like, Luffy's dream, right? Because they're kind of the same thing. But, like, one of them is one way and Luffy's the other way, right? And then we got some more warlords introduced, which was pretty interesting. And we also got Whitebeard, which is very cool. He's a badass dude. Just looks very nice. But yeah, world building wise, it's great. I really like the mythical Sky Island thing. And I thought that there was a human subspecies that we saw here, the guys with wings. I don't know if they're humans. I would assume so, but, like, it's One Piece. I don't actually know if they are. And I don't really get what the wings are for, because they look too small to function as anything useful. So, who knows? The other thing is there's this new kind of maritime technology here that kind of comes up with the dials and all of this stuff that's available in Sky Island, or in Skypeia, sorry, in the Sky Islands, which is very good. I don't necessarily know if this is going to be a thing that continues, if, like, Luffy and the crew just took a bunch of dials with them or not. I'm not too sure. I hope they did, because that type of technology is very useful. And if they manage to use it well, specifically Usopp, if he manages to use it well, his, like, arsenal and his ability to be a warrior is going to increase dramatically. And of course, Nami is also going to increase dramatically if she has some dials available to her, because they're not very equivalent to devil fruits, but they're definitely better than just a normal human with basic human level technology like guns and stuff, right? So I hope that they do implement them into their arsenal, right? But yeah, then there's a lot of old lore that gets brought up. El Dorado, special character connections between Nolan the Liar and the new Nolan character, the Nolan's descendants, and then all of the Shandians and stuff. I thought it was very, very good. Like, all of the world building aspects, all of the lore and all of the back history that we get for all of the different characters was top tier. I loved it so much. But it was just NL that was like, I don't really understand him. But the Shandians were very interesting. They definitely gave me a very Mesoamerican vibe, which is why I also found NL to be somewhat like Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, you know, those kind of big mythical badass gods from Mesoamerica. Because, you know, you got El Dorado, and then you have this obsession with gold, because gold was very prevalent in Mesoamerica. And then you have these giant snake characters. Snakes are very important to Mesoamerican cultures. And then you get this kind of connection to the sky, which is, you know, a Quetzalcoatl. This is like the greatest creature ever. This is like the dragon equivalent of Mesoamerica, who was the sky god, who lived in the sky, who came down to earth. And then when he did like don the form of a human, he had white skin and blonde hair, very similar to NL. So there's a lot of stuff like that. And of course, Oda mixed in some other things, but like, to me, this definitely felt very Mesoamerican. I thought that was very cool. I thought that was very enjoyable. You know, as a Mexican person, I thought that was very fun. Obviously, I don't like say 100% it's Mesoamerican. It just had a lot of things that, to me, read as Mesoamerican. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was Mesoamerican or that Oda even really cared about it. I just think that it was a very fun kind of thing that I noticed that I could kind of express onto the story, that I really enjoyed. I thought it was very nice. And yeah, overall, the world building was very well done. I liked it a lot. Now, the art here is good. Oda continues to evolve and get better and better. We get to see a lot of more shading, a lot of cross-hatching. We get to see the expressions of the characters evolve and get a lot more serious and a lot more, maybe not realistic, but like better and more enjoyable. Like last time in Alabasta, I mentioned that Luffy's musculature started to shine through whenever he powered up. We get to see a lot of that as well, but we also get to see the characters kind of go away from this like rubbery kind of Luffy-esque aesthetic that Luffy maintains, but everyone else starts to kind of morph a little bit into separate, more specific art style for each one of them. And I thought that was very cool. Like, Zoro looks very like square compared to Luffy now, when before he looked pretty like similarly lanky as Luffy. And Sanji gets to have this kind of more also kind of square shape. And I'm just really enjoying how the art style is developing and how the character designs are slowly but surely getting more independent from Luffy's kind of like gum looking style, right? And I think it's very, very good. I like it a lot. And yeah, fan service wise, there really isn't much. I guess if you count women in bikinis, there is fan service, but I mean, it's not that big a deal, I think. It's not very meaningful. Although there are some kind of like funny moments where Sanji's like, oh, Nami doesn't have a shirt on. That's great. And then she puts it on and he's like, oh no, why'd you put that? And why'd you put her shirt back on? Which I thought was pretty funny, but like, it's not really fan service-y in like a very serious kind of way. Like, it's not going to be like an H manga or anything like that. It's going to be very light. So it's still, you're going to be fine if you want to continue to read One Piece. But yeah, rating wise, this is a 4 out of 5. It continues to be solid. It continues to be good. And it continues to be really enjoyable, even if there are more elements here than usual that I didn't really love. I think that in general, it's just very, very consistently good and very, very enjoyable. And I think that's very good. I like it a lot. I definitely recommend it, obviously. And that's basically all I have to say, I guess. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. What do you guys think about Sky Island? Do you guys think it's as good as the rest of the arcs that came before it? Is it just kind of odd because it's kind of this transitioning period between like the early part of the Grand Line into the more serious part of the Grand Line? Or am I just completely wrong and this is like the best arc ever and I'm just like stupid and I didn't get it? Let me know down in the comments. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys later.